Hey, what's going on? You know who it is. It is Bruce Jordan, the Michael Jordan Hotels. We are in the house with Chargeback Gurus. Marty is in the building. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
being on the show.
I appreciate it.
So
Good to
how
be.
did you guys get started in this crazy business?
So the founders of our company actually ran call centers, owned and operated call centers, and they had many retail clients. And years ago, chargebacks started to get more and more problematic, and so those clients asked them to take a look into, can you help us, manage our chargebacks? And so they did, and found out that they were being very successful at it. And didn't take long for word of mouth to get out, and other of their colleagues, the client colleagues, were calling and asking if they could help, if our founders could help them. And so they pivoted from call centers to actually focusing specifically on chargebacks.
Wow, that is crazy. That is crazy. A very nice story. Like, what is the top three things that your company and your service resolves for hotels?
Yeah, so as it relates to chargebacks, we're specifically helping our clients recover more of that lost revenue, that chargeback revenue. So in the chargeback space, unfortunately, the merchant is guilty until proven innocent. So once a cardholder, files a claim or a dispute, the issuing bank will send that through. Will automatically take those funds from the merchant, and then the merchant has the opportunity to call what's called represent the transaction to prove that it's a valid transaction. And if they win that, then the money goes back, into their account. And so that's part of the work that we do. We will actually do that representment work,
Okay.
and file that on behalf of the merchants and recover that revenue. And in the hospitality space, generally speaking, when our clients come to us, they're winning maybe 15 to 22% of their chargeback revenue. And then once we take over, we're going to be winning, just depending on who the processor is, anywhere from 45 to 65%. So they get an immediate, fairly meaningful bump in revenue recovery, or can also be looked at as lowering bad debt, because the chargeback is a bad debt expense, and so we're lowering that bad debt expense for them. The second service that we provide, which is part and parcel to the work we do, we actually help them identify what factors are contributing to chargebacks, or even just outright causing those chargebacks. And so we're very heavily data science company, and so the data will tell us kind of where these chargebacks reside, whether it's in a broken payments process, maybe a broken customer journey or a gap in that customer journey, or maybe it's a processor or an issuer, or a geography, right? Just depending on, where one or two hotels are situated or located. Um, you know, what we say is every chargeback tells a story. And so when we start seeing the same stories over and over again, now we know we've got something that we could take back to the client. We have the data to prove it, and then we'll give them recommendations and best practices on what they can do to tweak that customer journey, to tweak that business process in some way so that they're lowering their exposure. And generally, we're helping our clients to lower their exposure by just under 33%, or a little more than a third, or a little less than a third.
No, this is a crazy question. I know you've been doing this for a long time. What's the biggest chargeback you ever seen, like in your career, not just here, like in your career?
So we've seen $1 million chargebacks. I won't divulge any names, but a Hollywood star, has a personal manager, and that personal manager was making purchases, and the Hollywood star had charged these back. So ultimately, I won't tell you how it was resolved, but that's the biggest one we've seen.
Wow, managers out of business. Ha 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 ha.
Indeed.
$1 million chargeback. That is crazy. Like no one would ever think that someone would actually charge $1 million on their cards. Like,
Well, yeah, if they're good for it, the issuing banks will allow a pretty big credit line.
unbelievable, unbelievable. Now, with us in the hotel business, our number one chargebacks are either no show fees or cancellation fees.
Yep.
Nobody wants to pay those. They want to book the room, And they would get mad at you if your room is not available when they get there, but they don't wanna pay for it if they don't show up.
Yeah, so ultimately, you're correct. However, lately we're seeing that, these same types of cardholders are learning that that's not being successful to claim, no show or cancellation. So now they're just outright claiming fraud. So fraud claims are skyrocketing now. So there's a lot of what we would call a repeat disputer. And we track that, by the way. And so we help our clients know, yes, right, who are repeat disputers. So you might have a hotel ownership group or even a hotel management group, and these repeat disputers will just hotel hop, right? They won't go to the same hotel because they'll know they generally have already been banned. But this information isn't being shared amongst their ownership group or amongst their management group. And so we help to make sure that all properties under a particular management or a particular ownership group knows who these bad actors are, so that they basically can blacklist them and they can't get the reservation name, essentially.
That's good.
But there are some, things that operators should know to reduce the amount of chargebacks that occur under a no-show or a cancellation. That will also ultimately help win that case, right? To get that revenue back. So first of all, your terms and conditions is extremely important, and having those terms and conditions, up front and center at the checkout when they're reserving the room. Now, generally, most hotels do that very, very well for themselves. The problem comes in when we're talking about OTAs,
Correct.
right? And so, what some, property uh, uh, groups might not know is that it's extremely important for them to go into that OTA user portal, and make sure for every single property they are uploading their specific terms and conditions.
Okay.
Because if they don't, the OTA has their own terms and conditions, and generally speaking, that terms and condition is cancel anytime.
Oh,
All right.
that's good.
And so if
Love it.
the hotel is not making sure that the OTAs that they're partnered with
Mhm.
don't have your information, then the cardholder is on I can cancel anytime. Furthermore, the OTA generally is paying the hotel with a virtual card. It's not the actual card holder, right? It's a virtual card. And they are paying and basically authorizing a set amount, nothing above. And so when that guest comes to the hotel,
Mhm.
if it's an OTA, you really have to do your best to get that guest to come to the front desk and insert the card for incidentals, for parking, you know, a resort fee, anything that would be above and beyond the actual reservation charge, because the OTA generally isn't charging the cardholder for that.
Correct.
And when the hotel property only has the virtual card on file and not the actual guest card, they're going to charge the virtual card, which sometimes it won't go through at all. And when it does go through, that OTA is just going to send it back as a chargeback. And
Yeah.
so there's a few tricks to the trade here on how to overcome that. So to keep that chargeback from even coming in the first place, that's number one. But number two, having those communications, which in turn are, proper evidences to submit when you're representing the transaction in a dispute.
One reason I got this phone system, one of the main things that sold me on this phone system was that all calls are recorded. So you have you get the telephone number and you can print the transcription of that call. So I'm like, you know what? If it's recorded and they call and say I canceled in time and I can prove that they didn't, I can just print the transcription and send it as backup for a chargeback.
Yeah, so you can do that, but there's some problems with that. From the merchant side, the issuing bank side, they generally are having a person review that dispute package, and that person only has 3 to 5 minutes to review it and make a decision. So they're not going to spend the time to read through that, number one.
Mm.
But even if they had the time to do that, it still becomes a he said, she said, right? There's no proof, perfect proof that this conversation occurred between the hotel and the cardholder. And so that's another, problematic. So that can be a nice ancillary piece of evidence,
Yeah.
but it's not a required piece of evidence. There are, just depending on what the reason code is or what the customer is claiming, there are specific evidences that are dictated by the card networks to say, mandatory, here are the 3 or 4 pieces of evidence that we need to consider the case. Anything else would be extra, and those are helpful. But it's not going to be a key piece of evidence in that. In fact, most hotels probably have video of that card holder. But again, the issuing banks generally don't know what their card holder looks like.
That's right. That's right. They just give credit to anybody.
And they have no way to receive the video evidence, and they don't have the time to look at it anyway, even if there was a way to receive the video evidence. So, one of the tactics there is to just mention it in your dispute. Just say, we have the card holder on a recorded call. And that's not so much for the issuing bank. That's for the cardholder's eyes. Because the issuing bank, if you've ever filed a dispute, you've gotten to see what the merchant responded to as a cardholder, right? And so when the cardholder, particularly if the cardholder is trying to pull a fast one, they'll read through that and they'll see, oh, they've got me on recording. I do remember making that call. How far do I want to take this charade?
Yeah.
Right. And so the cardholder might just say, okay, I accept, responsibility for the charge. So we'll make references like that, but the actual evidence itself usually won't be reviewed, by the issuing bank.
Yeah, I did not know they only have 3 to 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes. They have so many chargebacks. Now they're trying to implement some AI techniques, particularly on the easier ones to adjudicate. So issuing banks are using some, AI to actually review the packages and make a decision.
That makes things worse.
On the simpler ones. So for example, a really simple one would be, let's say the cardholder called the hotel, hotel agreed with the cardholder and refunded the transaction, right? Sometimes that refund, that cardholder won't see it for 7 to 10 days. They get a little antsy.
Yeah.
3 days later, they're like, oh, well, they promised me a refund. I haven't seen it. I'm going to call the bank. They call the bank, file a chargeback. Chargeback goes through, but it's already been refunded. We can prove that it's already been refunded. And that's something easy for an issuing bank to discern and make a decision without somebody looking at it. So that would be another example. But therein lies, another thing, that we would provide or that we do provide. There's gaps in communications. So when a hotel promises to make a refund, it's really important to follow that up with communication.
Gotcha.
Right? Immediately, we've received your request. We've agreed to refund it. We issued the refund on this date. Here is the refund transaction number. Send that to them in an email. You can follow up 2 days later. If you haven't seen your refund, it's coming, right? So you're alleviating their fears that you promised something and you're not going to deliver. You're alleviating that fear with that cardholder. You keep them from calling your bank. If you have any questions, call us back.
Yeah.
Right? That kind of thing. So we'll find communication gaps as well and help them to develop what that communication should be and that they should just automatically send it on these certain events.
Man, that is fantastic. How can everybody get in touch with you?
Well, thank you very much for asking. So we're Chargeback Gurus, and you can find us online at www.chargebackgurus.com. ChargebackGurus.com. Thank you so much.
And thank you. And thank you for tuning in for another episode. This is Bruce Jordan, the Michael Jordan Hotels, signing out. Hey, what's going on? It's Bruce Jordan, the hotel revenue expert. I just want to take a quick second to thank you for watching this video. If you could just do us a big favor and just subscribe to the channel. We have a lot more videos like this, more information, great information about hotels. I'm also the author of the Hotel Revenue Bible. You can get that book on hotelrevenuebible.com. And we are here to answer all your questions. So if you have any questions, just shoot us a quick text at 321-321-2002. That's 321-321-2002. And you can book a revenue call. Go to hotelrevenuecall.com and we can answer any and all your questions. Just make an appointment with me. You'll do one-on-one with me. You'll be able to do one-on-one with me, and we could go ahead and get all your questions answered and see if you have any revenue issues that needs to be resolved. Talk to you soon. Thank you again. Hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate you.